you 3 stories from my life.
Today I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal, just 3 stories.
The first story
is about connecting the dots.
I dropped out of Reed College.
I dropped out
after
of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop in another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why did I drop out?
It started before I was born.
It started before I was born.
My biological
My
mother
biological mother was a young
undergraduate
undergraduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption.
She felt very
She
strongly
felt very
that
strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife.
Except that
when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl.
So my
parents who were on the waiting list got a call in the middle of the night asking,
"We got an unexpected
baby boy. Do you want him?"
They said,
"Of course."
My biological mother
found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption paper.
She only
relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college.
This was the start.
It was a start in my life.
And 17 years
later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost expensive as Stanford.
And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition.
After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it.
I
have no idea what I wanted to do with my life and no idea how college would go to help me figure it out.
And
here I was spending all the money my parents have saved entire life.
So I decided to drop out.
And trust that it would all work out okay. It was really scary at the time. Looking back, it was one of the bad decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and began dropping in one that looked far more interesting.
It wasn't all romantic.
I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor with friend rooms.
I returned Coke
bottles for 5 cents deposits to buy food.
And I would walk the
7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple.
I loved it.
And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition, it turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example.
Reed College
at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label, on every drawing, beautiful hand calligraphy. Because I have dropped out and I didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do that. I learned about serif and sans serif typeface, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what's make great. It was beautiful and historical, artistically subtle in the ways that science can capture, and I found it fascinating.
None of this
even have a hope any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we designed the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me, and we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I have never dropped in a single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typeface of proportional space font. As in Windows, just copy the Mac, it lies that no personal computer would have them. If I have never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on this calligraphy class at personal computer might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dot looking for work when I was in college, but it's very, very clear looking backward 10 years later. Again, if you can't connect the dot looking for work, you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust the dots with somehow connecting in the future. You have to trust it's something, you got destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dot can connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path that will make you all the difference.
My second story